Problem 39, we are taking a look at 4 different quadratics and trying to figure out how to solve them, but also thinking about what method is going to be the best one to solve. So problem A, we have 10,000x squared minus 64. For this one, I chose to factor and zero product property. And the reason why I chose that one is because I recognize this as being a difference of squares. So if you remember the shortcut for a difference of squares, it's when both terms are perfect squares. So this one's 100x squared, and the other one is 8 squared. And we also have one of them being negative. There's a minus in there. So this will now factor into 100x plus 8 and 100x minus 8 equals 0. Now doing the zero product property, I take each factor and set equal to 0. And when I solve them, I'm going to get 100x equals negative 8, and then x equals negative 8 over 100. That's going to reduce down to negative 2/25. Solving the other one, it's going to be very similar. I get 100x equals now a positive 8, and x is going to equal a positive 2/25. So those are the two solutions for problem A. Looking at problem B. First of all, I'm going to get equal to 0. All of these problems, just like in A and C and D, I need to have them equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the 34x to the other side by adding 34x to both sides. So I have a 9x squared plus 34x minus 8 equals 0. So in this problem, there are no like terms. I could go through and try doing factoring. I am definitely not going to do completing the square with this one. But I think the best choice for me on this one is just going to be the quadratic formula. So x equals the opposite of my b value. The b value is 34. So the opposite of 34 plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times my a value, which is 9, times my c value, which is negative 8, all divided by 2 times my a value, which again is 9. That gives me negative 34 plus or minus the square root, and I always want to figure out this underneath the radical first. 34 squared is going to give me 1156. Negative 4 times 9 times negative 8, it's going to be a positive because there are 2 negatives. I get a positive 288 all over 18. Again, simplifying that number, I have negative 34 plus or minus the square root of 1444 divided by 18. Taking the square root, I have a negative 34 plus or minus the square root of 1444 is 38. It is a perfect square over 18. Now I'm going to break this up into 2 separate problems. Negative 34 plus 38 over 18, and negative 34 minus 38 over 18. So that's what I'm going to be getting from that plus and minus. So solving the blue one, I'm going to get positive 4 over 18, which simplifies down to 2 over 9. And solving the red problem, I get a negative 72 over 18, which is negative 4. On to problem C. Again, with problem C, I do not want to complete the square because I have a 2x squared. If I think about factoring, can check my diamond problem. My top of my diamond problem is 14x squared. The bottom is a negative 4x. Nothing works out there, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to try using the quadratic formula again. So x equals opposite of my b value is now positive 4 plus or minus a negative 4 squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2 times a. I have 4 plus or minus the square root of positive 16. And then this part right here, negative 4 times 2 times 7, is going to be a negative 56 all over 4. You may or may not start noticing a problem right now. When I simplify this underneath here, I'm going to get 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 40 over 4. Square root of a negative number, this has no real solution. On to problem D. Looking at that one, you may notice that it's not written the way it normally is, or that you normally see it. So I'm just going to rearrange this to make a little bit more sense out of it. I have a 0.2x squared plus 3.2x minus 5 equals 0. Again, just because of all the decimals, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. The opposite of my b value is a negative 3.2 plus or minus the square root. 3.2 squared minus 4 times 0.2 times negative 5 divided by 2 times 0.2. That'll give me a negative 3.2 plus or minus the square root of squaring that gives me a positive 10.24. And a negative 4 times 0.2 times a negative 5 is going to also give me a positive. It's a positive 4. All over the denominator here is going to end up being 2 times 0.2 is 0.4. So now I have negative 3.2 plus or minus the square root of, and I'm going to be getting 14.24 divided by 0.4. Now when I take the square root, though, this is not a perfect square like we had in problem B. That's going to equal approximately 3.774. So now I'm going to break up this into 2 separate problems because of my plus and minus. So I have a negative 3.2 plus 3.774 over 0.4. And the second one is going to be a negative 3.2 minus 3.774 all over 0.4. Remember that you need to simplify the numerator first. So I put that in the calculator, and then I divide that by 0.4, and I get an answer of 1.435. And the green problem, I subtract these, press enter on the calculator, and then I divide by 0.4, and I get a negative 17.435. And there's our solutions.